Right, guys, it's warming up in Bulgaria. Forecast for over the next like 7 days, well, around about 30, 31. I've been doing some early morning strimming, get the juices flowing. Now, I'd just like to um, comment on what's on YouTube about auditing Britain, auditing the police and government buildings and things like that in the UK. And previously, I had an opinion, and I still do on one of the things that it was largely a waste of time, and it could end up in being very quite negative, really. And that was in motoring in cars, and especially the things like people who want to drive around without insurance and stuff like that. Because that's all well and good until they killed your son or daughter and they haven't got insurance. You're driving a weapon, basically, and anyone who wants to drive around without insurance or anything like that is taking their own risk. They might be the sovereign man and all that, but well, they are until they knock somebody over, and then they're liable, even in their common law. So that's that out the way. So I've changed my opinion on the other type of auditing, which one guy does, and he's called Auditing Britain, AB, and he's very good, and he goes all around Britain, and he's got a huge following, including me, because I kind of like watching it. I like watching how the UK is, from afar, because it looks very militarized and alien. When you've spent like 4 or 5 years in the mountains, and there's none of these big fences anyway. You do get them, obviously, and there are like stuff like military bases in there, and but not many where I am, and even like pharmaceutical places and that. They're not like fortresses type of thing. They've got fences around them, but let's say they're not as like intimidating as these fences you see on there. So what AB does, he goes round and basically starts filming until he's challenged, and if he's not challenged, he usually starts provoking people, uh, and there's a few of them, just one or two, where I would say, it's a bit too much provocation what he does, when people are leaving him alone, but he goes after them. So just one or two. I mean, generally they take the bait, It's like a fisherman, and they come and like challenge him and that. Now the question that you would ask is, like, this has been going on for a few years now, and not just him. Loads of people are doing it, this auditing, and they must know it's going on. So I'm just wondering, why they keep taking the bait, and why they keep challenging him. And I've got like kind of a theory on that one as well, which is that they genuinely are. When they see somebody outside their fortress, um, it's just their nature. They want to go and say what you're doing, and give us your ID and all that, just to see who they are. Now, once he starts talking to them, a lot of them realise that he's not what they think they are, think he is, or they're just kind of reassured as that he is up to no good, because they are paranoid, and they've got to be paranoid, haven't they? Um, so that's one theory I've got, that why they keep coming out challenging. But some of them carry on, some of them don't know when to stop, and they carry on and on and on, and until by and large they get something, the memo in their ear, like, that's it, it's finished, get out the way. It's an audit, and just decease, and they all just disappear all at once. They've got the message, and it's quite funny really, because sometimes they don't really communicate with each other. They all just disperse all at once. It's like a flock of birds when they change direction at once. Like one goes, and they all haven't got like radios in there. Sometimes, but they all disperse all at once. It's quite interesting as well. So is it useful, and is it necessary? And I'd say it is, especially on foot, because when you have a motoring situation, the kind of winding police up on busy roads and stuff like that, it's not a good idea for you to be on a hard shoulder or on the side of a busy road, and it's not a good idea for them either. It's not a good idea for anyone, really. So he goes on foot, and also, that stops them from identifying the car, and then they know who you are then, generally, unless the car's a hire car or somebody else's name, or whatever, But generally, if you separate yourself from a vehicle, that's a good idea, and that's a good thing that he does, So is it necessary? Well, yeah, because he says it's in the public interest, and it actually is, because I'm public, although I don't live in the UK now. But I like to see how it's going, how things are developing in the UK. So I am interested in that aspect. And I'm also interested to see that, like, they built all these they're like bases. They're like military bases, and they lock themselves up in there. And I don't know who they're like, who the security's for. Are they that, like, frightened of people coming in? Because, they're out in the public most of the time, or a lot of the time, patrolling. So why the security around these places? And who knows, Anyway, but it must make them feel safer, Or there's other plans in place, which some people think there are, They can become militarised, if need be. And, if there's any big civil unrest and that, like, in the past, there were police stations targeted in riots and things like that on a number of occasions. So maybe that's another reason, So now it also shows the behaviour and the training, etc., of the police, which is also interesting, to see how they react and see how they conduct themselves. And you do get a cross section of people, and people are people. These are people, and some of them react differently than others, and some of them are more aggressive than others, and some of them are more helpful than others, and that kind of thing, and you see how well informed they are, and a lot of the time you think at first they don't know you can film, but I think a lot of the time they do know, really, and they're just trying to get rid of him or whatever, and trying to test the water to see what he knows, as well. And sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they're just hard-headed, and whatever he says, they don't care about what he can and can't do. Sometimes they just want him to go away and stop, and they carry on and on and on until they get the memo, the word in the ear, or they come to a point where they've got to arrest him, and he has been arrested a couple of times and locked up. I think one time overnight or for hours and hours, stuff like that. And but he has also won claims against him for doing things like that. So it all works. A lot of it works in his favour. He's got a huge following on YouTube, massive views, and he must make a right few quid, And also off the claims as well. And he's a bit of a celebrity as well, in his own world of auditing. He's the auditing, the king of audits, But and you wonder why the police don't know about these audits, and I suspect that they do, And why don't they train the officers to bow down to these people straight away? And probably because they don't want them to. They don't want them to say, "Oh yeah, carry on. You carry on filming and all that." And they do want them to confront them, and so they wouldn't give them the full kind of training to say, "Here's how you deal with them. You've got to be, polite and bow your head and get dismissed and all that, So I think they don't, and a lot of them who even do know what he's doing, they don't like to bow down straight away. They give him a run for his money, first of all, and that's where they have all these long conversations, which can be quite interesting, sometimes. I mean, he brings them round sometimes, and sometimes they bring him around, so that's where the interest comes in. All the reactions and all the how's this gonna turn out, But on the odd occasion, just the odd occasion, not very often, I think he goes over the top, provoking people, the cops and that. If he's not getting a reaction or nobody comes out, he starts provoking people and heckling people, who are just not even looking at him, they're just walking past, and that kind of thing. But he's travelled a long way some of the times, and he wants some footage for his channel, which is fair enough. But I think sometimes it's a little bit, I don't know, provocative when there's no real need. In fact, there was one just watched in Liverpool where they had the police van had its engine running, so he said you shouldn't leave it unattended, and they pointed out to him a number of times that no one can drive it away, nobody can get in it and steal it, drive it away. It's like a fail-safe system, and unless you've got the keys, which the sergeant had, and he explained to him, yet nobody can drive it. I've got the keys, and it's running for a reason, because I'm charging this such auxiliary battery up or something, And he said he wasn't going to switch it off, and he said, "You've got to," and he said, "Well, but that's going too far, isn't it? He's giving the orders then, and he's telling people not to order him about. So really, I mean, that was a bit too far, and they were being fair, the second he carried on then and went after the guy again, and in the end he said, "I'm not going to do it," and he got quite abusive then towards the police. He got quite aggressive and derogatory, which I thought was that's what he doesn't want them to do that to him. So only the odd occasion, but that's, I would just say that one on a very, very few occasions actually, But apart from that, it's all quite good entertainment, and I like seeing how the UK's developing. As I've worked on a lot of these big buildings and sheds, not the particular ones that he goes to, but on these out of town estates. I've worked on hundreds and hundreds of these. We call them sheds, these big metal buildings, and it's interesting to see see out what's behind the fences, you know. I actually worked on the one in Speak where he went to, just behind there, just behind the police building. I worked on a few of them, what we call sheds, big metal buildings. So it was interesting to see that, you know. And the UK looks so faceless and so it's horrible. It's sterile, and he plants all these shrubs that look horrible. You know, they even make the shrubs look faceless. You know, and the trees, they plant trees which are of no use to anyone. Unlike in Bulgaria, we're seeing it all over the cities. Every other tree's a fruit tree, even in the cities. You know, they tend to, and all the roads around here, everything's lined with fruit trees. It was nice to see, you know. And everything's pretty much useful, you know. But these places, it's all just sterile, and cameras everywhere. And that's another thing. Like they always go on about why you're filming, and like they've got cameras everywhere, all over them, all over the buildings, all over the vehicles, all over the city centres, all over the road systems. They've got cameras everywhere. They're asking why you're filming. And he says the obvious one, why are you filming? So the surveillors are now being surveilled. Everyone's surveilling each other in the UK, you know. And the main surveillors don't like it. They don't like being filmed for some reason. Why are you filming? Why are you filming? You know? Oh, we've got to. Well, why? Who says? You know, that's what he says a lot of the time. You know, and they made these laws that you can film anything in public, and from a public place you can even film what you can see in private places. You know, you can point the camera at places behind fences. You know, as long as you are in the public place. You know. Which is fair enough. And the reason why they did that wasn't for your benefit. It wasn't for the population's benefit. It was so they can film you anyway, and they can film your private property. You know, that's why they brought in the laws. Not because it was for the benefit of the population. So it's interesting. So that's why it's all useful, you know. And it shows them as well. They all watch it, you know, they obviously. And they say they don't a lot of the time, and you can tell that they do. And because they kind of, you can tell when they've been watching the stuff, you know. And they probably don't want to say it because they're all the senior bosses and all that, they're watching them. They're all watching each other. So that's interesting. You know sometimes that they cotton on who he is, like, and then they play to the camera. Then it's great. So, is it useful? Well, yeah, and it's useful to me because I like to see how the UK is getting on, you know, and it's kind of woeful. It's kind of developed into this horrible place, you know, and all these fences everywhere and metal buildings, and when you've been in where I am and all the mountains and waterfalls and all that, it looks so strange after 5 years away. And 5 years ago I was working on building them places, you know. I think the last 3 or 4 contracts I did was building those great big metal buildings, not particularly police ones, but anyone. And we actually built one of them actually was at an inland revenue place, so we might audit that one day. That'd be interesting to see. So anyway, that's my view on that. So it's quite positive, and like at one time I thought like it's a bit like a waste of time, a bit provocative, but like if it's done in the right way, you know, people need auditing. We got audited in the construction industry all the time, you know, So why shouldn't everybody else, especially public services? Okay, that's my opinion. Cheers.